Well, the metal world was shocked when Dave Mustaine damaged his arm in an accident a few years back. Now, fans thought the healing process was only a few months, and then more were surprised when he started selling off all his equipment. Megadeth had finally called it quits, or had they? Seems they're now back with a solid offering titled The System Has Failed. Let's get reacquainted with the main man himself, Mr. Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. Welcome back to Triple J, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. It's always a pleasure to be chatting with you and talking all things Megadeth, which we are doing right now. Take us back to the last few years, what seemed like a successful tour and album being The World Needs a Hero, then sort of crashing into like a downward spiral. When did it feel like the light was slowly fading for Megadeth?
Well, there were some periods where, I was a little excited about playing, when I first started, and then when things got more successful, it got a little scarier, because of the pressure that came out. Rest in Peace was a tremendous success. And then Countdown to Extinction came out, and my God, it was number 2 in America. The record company started pressuring me to do another follow-up to that. And, of course, you're going to do a follow-up, but, it's not as easy as you think to write great records. If it was, everybody would be doing it. You'd have 400 or 500 meatheads up at the fighting for the number 1 spot. There's only 200 spots in the charts in Billboard in America as it is. So it started to get a little scary when the pressure came from the record company, and I started to lose interest. That's why I did the MD45 thing. And then when that record came out and Capitol didn't try working on the MD45 thing, I realized, I needed to pursue Megadeth. Did Cryptic Writings. It was a tremendous success. Had a number 1 single in America on it. It's a little bit easier to have a number 1 record than a number 1 single because, you can have so many great songs out there. A great record is a lot easier to get up the charts than it is just one great song. And we followed that up with Risk, which was another one of those things where people were twisting our arms. Write another record with a great number 1 single on it. Now, Cryptic Writings had 4 top 5 singles on it, which was unheard of for a little metal band. And when Risk came out, it was really a disappointment to a lot of people. It disappointed me because I thought it was a fantastic record, and the response of the public was horrible. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they expected it to be a Megadeth record, and Risk is a great record. It's just not a Megadeth record.
Yeah.
So when I told Marty Friedman, hey, we need to go back to our roots with The World Needs a Hero, he decided, he wanted to go to Japan, and I don't blame him because that's, it's what he wants to do. And Petrelli stepped in. We did The World Needs a Hero. I said if it didn't beat Risk, I was done. It didn't. My arm got hurt. I decided that's it. The band's disbanded. Now, last summer, I was approached by the people from Tomb Raider to do the Lara Croft series sequel to the first Tomb Raider.
Yep.
And they, I turned in a song called Die Dead Enough. They loved it. They wanted me to do it for the movie, and there just wasn't enough money to make a quality song for a movie because, if you're making a bunch of songs, you can spread the expenses out over a bunch of songs. If it's just one song, it's really expensive to get into a studio and make that one song.
Yeah.
And so we passed. And when I broke up my relationship with all the guys in Megadeth, I thought, after a period of time, the fire that's in my belly that makes me want to play and rock will go out. It'll just burn out, and I'll be okay with that. But it never burned out, Andrew. It just didn't. And I decided I was going to play again. Last summer, I asked the managers to go talk to the publishing company and tell them I was ready to play, and tell the record company I was ready to play, and that's when I started writing The System Has Failed.
Well, let's talk about, I guess, first thing, the sort of arm injury. Now, it sort of raised a lot of suspicions regarding this. Many was sort of saying it was an excuse and that you had lost the fire in making music, and more fans got worried when they saw a lot of your equipment being auctioned on eBay. So obviously this was definitely the lowest point for you regarding the band. Now tell us about how the arms sort of improved and you got back on the guitar again.
Right. Well, the way that my arm got hurt was I slept on it wrong. I'd like to say that I was wrestling tigers and shit like that, and that's how my arm got hurt. But it was really a stupid, very sorry excuse for getting injured. I just fell asleep on it.
I've done that a few times. It's painful.
It was over the back of a chair, and it got hurt, and when the band broke up, there was a lot of people that had supported my career and believed in me over many, many years. Obviously with other band members coming and going, the dream that they bought into was mine. And when they were owed money, most bands that break up, they just kind of figure out, screw you, you can just write off the loss. Well, that's not how I am. I'm really old-fashioned. So any of the equipment that was left over after the band guys took their stuff and scattered, I sold off, paid off the people that the last lineup owed money to. Same thing with the remaining equipment that belonged to, Marty and Jimmy, the stuff that belonged to Marty and Nick. When I say that, it means the lineup with those guys. And then anything that was left over belonged to me anyways, because I've been paying for this band since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold off everything that I had that I didn't absolutely need to pay these people that I owed money to. And then when all the gear that could be sold that wasn't absolutely vital for me to have in the event that I did ever play again, I had all these guitars left over. And so I figured I'm going to sell these guitars, I'm going to pay these people I owe money to, and I'm going to be an honorable person in a very dishonorable business.
The album, to me, has a lot of variation throughout, which is great. I mean, it definitely has hints of classic sort of Megadeth sound, which is definitely the trademark that's within you, because that's the sound you have created since the start of the career. But having Chris Poland back in the fold, in the studio, that is, handling guitar duties, now he's more of a fusion player, and he's certainly added a lot more flavours on this sound, which really sort of brightens the whole, not just the songs, but just the sound in general. And even surprisingly, in the studio as well, having Vinnie Colaiuta on the drums as well. It just sounds like it was just a fun album to make, jamming with those guys and even yourself.
Yeah, well, Chris didn't play when Vinnie and Jimmy were there. It was just me, Jimmy, and Vinnie.
Yeah.
Chris came in towards the end, and basically, it was just kind of like it left off. I would tell him what solos I wanted to play. He would try and do them. Either he got it, the first couple of times on his own, or I would tell him what I wanted, and then he would get it after a couple more tries, or then I would just say, this is what I want you to do. So basically, anytime I've worked with a guitar player, I gave him 3 shots. Do it your way. Then if that's not cool, then we'll work on it 50-50. I'll give you some ideas. If that's not cool, then I'm going to tell you exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And I think that creates good music. It gives the other player a sense of ownership in the song, and it gives them an opportunity to feel like they're contributing.